This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
Okay, so I've got kind of some other thoughts about why something like a modeler for me is better than a pedal board. And something about this is that with pedals in general, they're sort of like a closed off box, right? So for instance, I yesterday matched or tried to do my best to come up with something in the Helix that could do something like the Keeley Halo, which is a preset. And you know, there's discussion about what that thing is actually doing, but when it comes to replicating it, you have to sort of be able to spot a few different things, and all of that stuff. I don't think I'd have any chance of getting anywhere near close if I hadn't spent as much time as I have, specifically with the Helix, building tones and building stuff in that way. And I think instead of necessarily thinking about the Helix in the same category, or any multi-effects with a certain degree of tweakability, is that you can actually do far more in these things than you can actually do in the real world in a lot of cases, particularly with Fractal as well. So a couple of months back, I did this video looking at Joey Landreth on that pedal show had put together a board that was kind of doing some really interesting experimental things, but it was the part that really caught my ear was involving playing a loop that had already been created back through the Chase Bliss blooper. And what I could do in the Helix, which you couldn't necessarily do as easily in real life, was actually create something which was an evolving thing that was listening to your playing and then sort of reversing it back and chewing it out. And that's something that I use all the time now. And again, something that I could do with the Helix is I've kind of sort of got something like the essence of the Keeley Halo thing, that Andy Timmons Halo thing, and I can learn lessons from that, and I can even build a preset like I've done here where I'm kind of using that in another context. So the context was I built another preset that was kind of trying to address the big kind of Fender clean tone from like 1965, like this Pro Reverb, and you know, I found some settings that work really nicely with that, and an overdrive, and I can actually then mold those two lessons together in a way that I just can't do with pedals. It's like this, I don't know, I feel like it's like a little bit of a stage on, because you can, you know, you can buy into the pedal stuff, and there are people out there that are intimately interested in designing pedal boards and stuff and pedals, and, you know, whether they're Brian Wampler, Josh Scott, these types of folks. A lot of the time what they're doing is sort of derivative of past circuits in some cases. I think companies like Chase Bliss, Meris, Empress, there are some companies that are kind of pushing things forward, I think, at the moment. But I still think as well, the Empress Zoya kind of perfectly demonstrates this kind of idea of kind of building your own effects. And it's something that's totally possible within the Helix world and totally possible within Fractal and some other modelers, that I think encourages some sort of more unconventional thinking around kind of sound design and stuff that previously, you know, if I pull up a Kemper profile or something like that before I got into the Helix world, then it kind of is what it is, and maybe it sounds like something you want it to sound like, or maybe you don't. What I love about the modeling side of stuff, and even on the Quad Cortex, you know, building from the ground up, is that you can sort of learn what stuff makes a difference, where you want to play stuff. You know, I'm definitely not an expert on any of this, but if I can kind of hear what is going on with the Keeley Halo and then sort of try and distill it down into a thing that could work in Helix, then basically I imagine there are a lot of people that could do the same thing. So I think for people that are serious about, you know, interest in effects and stuff, I think we're past the point where being snobbish about this stuff makes sense, because Robert Keeley is programming on DSP chips, I think, for the Halo. Chase Bliss, they use DSP chips. Strymon use DSP chips. And Helix do. It's all now basically some sort of level playing field where they're just programming for these DSP chips, right? It's no longer about, okay, well, who's got the best diodes and all that sort of stuff. It's more now about, well, we're all programming, and we're all to some extent programmers, especially if you're dealing with delays and reverbs at the moment, right? They're all going the way of being DSP based, and they probably already have been for a while. So it's no longer really making sense to be particularly snobbish about something, because I've read, you know, before people say about the Helix, you know, it's like you'd imagine that one company that focuses solely on delay pedals would necessarily, by the fact that it is one device that costs loads, would always necessarily be better than the Helix, which is sort of a Swiss Army knife. I don't know that that's necessarily actually true. And if you look at what it takes to build effects, you know, if someone like Strymon could build the Timeline a decade ago and never have to touch those delay algorithms, what it shows to me is that there's no reason why someone else couldn't also come up with a great algorithm that stands the test of time. It's not magic, it just takes someone to do it. And the fact that the Helix, they've continued adding new algorithms, and same with Fractal, shows that the people that are working on it potentially are getting better at stuff as well. Potentially they bring in new people, like the people from Digitech who have different skills. Potentially the people from Lexicon who have different skills, who have real experience working on the expensive delay and reverb units out there. The fact that it is under the Line 6 umbrella is not actually a thing that you should be snobbish about anymore, I don't think, because it's actually more about the people that work at Line 6 and who are those people, what have they done, and it turns out that a bunch of them have done really good stuff and are still doing it. And also the Helix is a platform that is kind of inviting for this sandbox style, create your own sort of thing, be experimental. You know, you've got parallel paths, you can reverse stuff, you can do a lot of creative things which traditional pedal boards don't invite in the same way. I don't know if that's a hot take or whether I'm preaching to the crowd, but it was just something that I thought about after coming back to this Halo sound and seeing what people thought in the comments. You're like, that was quite close, considering that I was quite unhappy with it initially. Now I can come back to it with fresh ears and go, well, that is in essence doing a very similar thing that I could totally use musically for that same thing. and I can take that learning and, you know, this modular approach, and it's all good. If you want that preset, that one that I played in the intro is called Halo and Fender. It will be a Patreon exclusive. So, yeah, I'll go and leave that up there. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll catch you in another video soon. Grab yourself an HX Stomp or something. If you're wondering what this is Liana, my wife, has embroidered this little logo for me. It features a Fenton, a guitar, and a me. And this is the acceptable face of merchandising, isn't it? So if you wanted something to stay warm with over the winter months, you'll see me wearing this, and there'll be a little link in the description if you want to support my wife's business in a small way and get the knock-on impact of making it that I live in a house with a wife who has something slightly extra to do. Then feel free to try one of these. This is hot off the presses. But yeah, heating prices are going up, aren't they?